1, 2, right? Hello everybody, thank you very much for coming. I know everybody's taken a huge amount of time out of their day and the effort of coming here and everything else, and thank you very much for coming. Just as a wee safety thing, just watch the road behind. If you're getting tight to the traffic or whatever, just try and keep the road clear, keeps the police happy and stuff like that. If anybody, we're all here for the good of people of Northern Ireland. We're not here to cause any trouble, we're not here to cause any upset or anything here today. So if anybody is starting to cause any disruptions, start a fight, start a ruckus, stand back, take a camera out and film them, because they're not along with us. So we're going to be here, we're going to be getting things going shortly, we're going to get a few speakers up. So we all know why we're here. It's this bill, and people will go into detail about the bill, but this bill is coming in, and it's not just about the bill itself, it's the entire process that brought that bill into place. The bill itself is lethal, it's dangerous, but the reason that it's actually there, and people are trying to put it off, is it's okay, it's 2 years away, it's just down the line, don't worry your pretty head about it, everything's going to be okay. No, it's the entire process of how this is brought in and what's behind it, and people will go into detail. People a lot smarter than me. So we're going to get things going shortly, but just any trouble at all, video it, keep yourself safe. We're here to have a good time, and we'll get somebody up to talk now shortly. And thank you very much for coming. The important thing is that everybody here, I know there's a mountain of people here who are doing a huge amount of things in the background. You're putting a lot of effort in, and nobody even knows it's happening. Nobody recognizes it. So, let me pull back. All right. So we'll get things going shortly, but I'll be back on. We'll stick the thing back on 2 seconds. We'll sort out the sound, and we'll get things going. Thanks very much. Okay, now we're going to have our first speaker up. This is Jeff Peel. So if you give him a round of applause.
Thank you, all of you, for coming here today. So let me first of all say that the worst virus in our midst is government. The worst virus in our midst is government and bureaucrats and people like Mike Nesbitt and the BBC. During the last 4 years, it has become clear that the greatest threat to public health, the greatest, I'm going to take this off, is that any better? The greatest threat to public health comes from not us, not people, but organizations like Pfizer, like health ministers, like medical officers, chief medical officers who have been thoroughly disgraced in their roles, the British Medical Association, the SAGE committees, the Gates Foundation, the World Health Organization, and Mary-Louise Connolly. Yeah? It is we, the people, who have to endure the slings and arrows of state-promoted tyranny. And this bill, being no doubt, is state-promoted and World Health Organization promoted tyranny. Many of you who are here today have suffered pain and loss over the last 4 years because of that state overreach. Some of you have lost parents who have been euthanized in the care homes and hospitals, injected with midazolam and morphine in so-called care homes. Some of you have lost businesses. Some of you have lost those you love because of suicide or suffered vaccine harms. Remember that all of these tortures are because of the actions of bureaucrats and their puppets. Remember, the only people who implement totalitarianism, the only people who rob us of our freedoms, are bureaucrats. bureaucrats sitting at Stormont and the various ministries around Belfast. "70 years ago, the United Kingdom signed the European Convention on Human Rights. This convention emerged out of the Second World War. It's a wee bit windy, so apologies for the sound. So 70 years ago, the UK signed the European Convention on Human Rights. This was a convention to ensure that the atrocities that occurred during the Second World War would not occur again. And it's Article 3, which is supposed to protect us from torture and inhuman treatment at the hands of authority. And now this tin pot administration at Stormont is planning to remove this right, the most fundamental right, one of the most fundamental rights that you have, the right to bodily autonomy and not to be degraded by inhuman treatment. And this bill is proposing that people, appointed officers, can knock down your door, drag you out, enforce medical examinations on you and inject you with vaccines. How is this tolerable in any democratic society? It's clear, however, that the people don't agree, and I know that there are maybe 1,000 people here today, and I know that you know many, many other people who are not prepared to come out onto the street and say that this is wrong. So I want you today to go home and say, do whatever you can to ensure that this thing is stopped. This bill is currently at consultation. It's at consultation at the behest of Mike Nesbitt, the Health Minister. And remember, the Ulster Unionist Party received just 11% of first preference votes at the Assembly elections. That's the equivalent of 7% of the entire electorate. So they do not have a mandate to inflict this. And we want to know who is instructing them. Who is instructing Mike Nesbitt? It's clear that the people do not agree with this. They say, no, this must be stopped. Because these are your rights. And the solution is simple. Stop the bill, stop the consultation, and Mike Nesbitt, get out of our lives.
Okay, we'll try and get her up and going again. This is what we really want to do. There is, 90 politicians, MLAs up there. They're the ones that are imposing some of this stuff on us. But there's 1.8 million of us. So what I'd love everybody to do here today, when I'm saying with cameras, it would be great right now if everybody take out your cameras, video whatever you can. If you can do a live broadcast, take a photograph, send it to a friend, anything you can to spread the word, spread the notice about it. So if you can, feel free, you record everything, record away. I think we do have legacy media here, so they're not being our friends at the minute, but this is more important than anything. We have to get this word out. It's being restricted, being reduced, being censored. So anything you can do to get this out, doesn't matter if you leave here and you go and talk to one person, we need to get that out. But if you can record away, broadcast it live when it's happening, send it when you get home, whatever you can do. We're going to get the next person up here. So you had Jeff Peel, this is Melissa Ciummei.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, that's right.
What is it? What's wrong?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. 100%.
It's not fair because it's turn up.
Yeah, I know that.
Are you in good time related to justice responsible right qualifiable?
Right.
If it's for the greater good, you have
Can everybody hear me okay?
Yeah.
Great to see so many people here exercising their right to free speech and freedom of assembly. Rights are vital to conduct your life without authoritarian government control. Yet your government, who you elected to protect your rights, are planning to legislate to remove them, suspending them in what they deem to be an emergency situation. Right to life, gone. People will certainly die from any mass forced medical treatment, and the First and Deputy First Minister have met with FIBs, that's Vaccine Injury and Bereaved in Northern Ireland, seeing firsthand the devastation caused by the mandates, and yet they are willing to proceed with this bill. Right to dignity, free from inhumane or degrading procedures or tortures, gone, with the possibility of invasive examinations without consent. Right to liberty, gone, detained in what they call suitable establishments, whatever they may be, for quarantine or complete isolation if you are or may be a threat without any definitive proof that you are a threat. Right to fair trial, gone. You no longer have the right to be present to hear, see and test the evidence. This bill proposes changing the rules of the Magistrates' Court, where you can have a court order placed against you without having the right to be there and defend yourself, only appeal, shifting the burden of proof from them to prove that you are a threat, for you to prove that you are not a risk. Almost impossible. The crime is that not that you caused any provable harm, rather the crime is that you did not submit to orders. Fined for not following orders rather than causing any definitive harm. This bill is redefining the law. Freedom of assembly, like here today, gone. Point 72 sets to restrict this. Right to work and right to education, gone. Kept from school or work for up to 28 days without pay. It doesn't say anything that you will be paid. Businesses closed without confirmed risk. And as we know, freedom of expression is also under threat through the vagueness of labelling it hate speech. Freedom is more than just a mere concept. Freedom is a lived experience, a right that belongs to every individual regardless of background or belief. This health bill is designed to give the government a blank check paragraph where they can fill in the blanks of whatever the threat is, be it cyber attack, banking crisis, climate emergency, and force their protectionism on the people under the guise of public health. It opens the door to surveillance, as is mentioned many times. To quote Mike Nesbitt, the all hazards approach will enable broader surveillance, loss of personal privacy, loss of security in your home where authorised officers, what's that? Who are they? What level of training will they receive? Is there an oversight body on top of them? Essentially what they're doing is bringing in a second tier policing system where the authorised officers can enter your home without sufficient evidence or notice to ascertain if there is any contravention. Point 96 warns your premises could then be destroyed. The government destroying your asset. They can also remove whatever they see fit, including electronic devices. The government seizing your assets. If you object, or as they call it, willfully obstruct, that's a £5,000 fine. Forced compliance with health measures, point 144 and further point 70, the Public Health Authority can make applications to the Magistrates' Court to order health measures. Court-ordered health measures in relation to persons, things and premises, and suspension of civil liberties in what they refer to as an all-hazards approach without definition. All hazards is an expansion of the harms they need to impose their protectionism. Any situation they deem to be a threat, whether you think it's a threat or not. Hazards is not contamination or infection. The three words are listed separately. There's infection, contamination, and then hazards. So what are hazards? Could be natural or man-made disasters, terrorism, cyber attacks, power outages, economic instability, disruption to essential services. In this scenario, the Public Health Authority have the ultimate authority to authorise another body to step in and take over. Who would that be? This is an attempt to get the concept of protectionism in through the back door of public health. So if you just give up your informed consent and bodily autonomy, the government can protect you. And then they extend that to surveillance. If you just give up your privacy and your biometric data, the government can protect you from harm. And ultimately, the economy. The government will protect you from banking crisis, hyperinflation, economic instability, etc., offering you central bank digital currency and stablecoins. All you have to do is give up your freedom to transact to get this protection. This bill has zero to do with health. How will these powers even protect us? There's nothing in this proposal about promotion of health. They're more interested in monitoring rather than promoting health. They are putting forward the sentiment that you are a risk to society that needs to be managed, monitored, and fined. If we allow them to create the idea among us that living itself is an illness, then they can make patients and profit out of every single one of us. Never does it mention the need to prove group benefit to what they are imposing. This bill is actually more in line with putting in place the surveillance and penalties required to create a functional smart city, and Belfast has been earmarked by the WEF as a smart city. The pandemic treaty failed on a macro level. They're now trying to bring it in on a micro level and then bleed it out. This bill has already been introduced in Scotland, the Coronavirus Recovery Reform Act on 2022. They have it in Scotland. And it was met with very little resistance because very few people knew. Very similar to what happened here, but it was picked up just in time. If you read the Scottish bill from 86D onwards, that's around page 7 or 9, that's almost identical to our now famous page 47. The rest of the UK and Ireland need to take note. This is coming for you. It's in Canada, the C293 bill. It's very, very similar to ours again. Australia, New Zealand, they're all acting in lockstep under the direction of the WHO. This started with Save the NHS. That resulted in months of people missing treatment and now years of undiagnosed illness such as cancer, heart issues, diabetes, which ultimately leads to premature death. From then until now, it's been all but impossible to get a face-to-face appointment with a GP. They are the gatekeepers of healthcare, and that gate has been all but closed. This is all by design. In 2020, at the height of the so-called pandemic, the then Health Minister, Robin Swan, he signed a 10-year deal with Epic Systems worth $275 million, which has now been rolled out via the Encompass programme, supposedly to be more efficient and keep all health records in one place. Your sensitive data at the mercy of hackers. Swan stated that virtual clinics will increasingly be embedded in the provision of care, moving us to a digital transformation of healthcare, a digital ID record. Epic software contains a billing system for insurers. The NHS is gone, moving us away from free healthcare. Well, we do pay for it. Moving us away from free healthcare to expensive and often bankrupting private healthcare. In due course, everyone in Northern Ireland will have the MyCare app on their phone to access healthcare. Epic was installed in the UK in October 2014 at a cost of 200 million, and it was heavily criticised. Ambulances were diverted. There was issues with blood transfusions, pathology. There was delays in emergency care. In Finland, Switzerland and Norway, doctors called for its removal, with 90% of doctors considering it a threat to health. With letters not sent, people were given the wrong chemotherapy drugs. Why would they want to bring that in here? Still think it's about health? Do you think virtual clinics are the way to go? This is not a health bill. It's a tyranny masquerading as protection bill. How dare they propose any of this and presume that we will consent? Under what authority do they think that they can change the healthcare system, the magistrates' court, the rule of law, and how we are governed, moving to rule over rather than govern with us? To the MLAs that are telling us that we can't be trusted to do the right thing should there be a genuine crisis, and therefore they need to legislate. Who do you represent? Who do you work for? Every one of them was asked to attend here today to address the concerns of the people they claim to represent. All declined. Every single one. If any of them are here and they would like to get up and talk and address the people that they claim to represent, please feel free. They have had it since the start of July. They have failed the people of Northern Ireland by not making it national news. I could count my thumbs the few that have voiced concerns. They're acting in lockstep with these generic responses such as it's in the early stages, it's just a proposal, it's just an update. Remember, it was just 3 weeks to flatten the curve. They're attempting to pacify the people with the assurances that they will debate and oppose it in the Assembly. Let's be clear, it has to go through us first to get to you to debate. And A, it doesn't meet the consultation principles. This has actually been admitted by the Health Committee. And B, much as you don't trust us, we don't trust you. Not one single person I'm aware of has received a meaningful response to their concerns. Rather, the MLAs have sent out these cookie-cutter responses, some returned so quickly it was impossible for them to have even read the initial email. Yet they think we trust them to have our back in the Assembly floor, telling us they are going to debate what freedoms they are willing for us to lose. There's not 1% of this bill that is acceptable, not even if they withdraw vaccination and prophylactic requirements. The entire proposal is one of state overreach. The entire process is wrong. Where is it coming from? Who wrote it? Why does it even exist as a proposal? And what's the rush? The COVID inquiry hasn't even concluded yet. Mike Nesbitt said in an email, the consultation is to test public appetite. More likely it was to test public awareness. We are aware. They want to legislate on everything that didn't work previously and was detrimental to our economic, physical and mental health. Why? Well, because it was successful at controlling the population and their freedom of movement. Any politician who engages in any discussion or debate past the consultation deadline in relation to this bill is an enemy of the people. The only acceptable response is to call for it to be completely abolished. To the MLAs and councillors, you either stand with us or you stand with us or you stand against us. There is no sitting on the fence on this one. They lie. We know they lie, coerced and manipulated. We do not trust them to advocate for the good of the people of Northern Ireland on the Assembly floor. The proposal needs to be abolished with no further advancement in any capacity, a complete rewrite, because we do need a health bill that sets aim to promote health while protecting our rights. The MLAs don't seem to be clear on the parameters of their authority, so we need to take this as an opportunity to set out clear boundaries of their authority. This proposal is deliberately vague. All hazards is undefined. They can't provide a list of notifiable diseases. It uses words like could present harm, may be infected, might infect, reduce the risk. What is reduce the risk? That's unquantifiable. An informed response is impossible. So let me simplify the bill to 2 questions that could be put to a referendum vote. Do you agree or disagree that healthcare should be criminalised if you don't accept it? Do you agree or disagree that civil liberties, your rights, should be suspended for a limitless amount of time in any hazard the government deems harmful? No one would agree. They know this.
If you could just make sure the road's clear there for an ambulance getting through. If anybody's in the road, just make space. Thank you.
To the media, no doubt attending, you brood of gaslighting vipers! You have failed the people of Northern Ireland by not reporting on this until social media picked it up a mere few weeks before the deadline. So, rather than indulge yourself in your favourite sport, calling people far-right conspiracy theorists, I suggest you actually read the bill and the implications proposed that go way beyond the scope of health. So, allow me to take this opportunity to fact-check you and counter your misinformation, misunderstanding narrative. The Belfast Telegraph states, and it's not just the Belfast Telegraph, it's the BBC, it's all of them, they're all singing from the same hymn sheet. The Belfast Telegraph states, the bill does not explicitly mandate compulsory vaccination. What part of point 144 where it prohibits the imposition of a requirement that a person undergoes medical treatment except for vaccination and prophylactic, and point 70, the Public Health Authority can make applications to the Magistrates Court to order health measures in relation to persons, things and premises. Are you having trouble deciphering? What part are you finding so confusing? And then you write the bill states that regulations must allow exemptions in an attempt to dampen the concerns of the people. In case you haven't read it, you're referring to point 172. So let me read it to you. In regulations that include provisions imposing a requirement on persons to be vaccinated or to receive other prophylactic treatment. Let me read that again. Imposing a requirement on persons to be vaccinated. If that alone doesn't sound compulsory, I don't know what does. An exemption must be provided, including how a person who is entitled to an exemption is to evidence that entitlement. So how exemptions can be obtained is unclear. I would presume it would be on medical grounds if you have injury from a previous medical treatment. Anyhow, an exemption is a permit removing informed consent. Let me repeat that. Replacing informed consent with a permit, and you don't think people should be concerned and outraged? To the media, have you heard of the Nuremberg Code? Jot that down, look that up. You have been so focused on the anti-vax narrative that you have failed to report on the wider scope of this bill and how it affects the rule of law and suspension of rights indefinitely. There is no misinformation. There's a failure on your behalf to report it. You have been silent, moving only to disparage those who have brought attention to the bill. person will want to interview me afterwards. Once medical freedom is taken away, the sky's the limit for the loss of your freedoms. The concept of bodily autonomy being selfish without rational, factual backing lays the ground for ownership of property being selfish. We should just give up all our rights for the greater good. The government are proposing in this bill to have authority over your body, your personal belongings, your animals, and your premises in order to offer you protection. In Northern Ireland, we have witnessed the profound impact of division, of conflict, and heavy-handed state intervention. The Good Friday Agreement was a monumental step towards recognising the importance of our rights, be they civil, political, or social. A lot of us remember what it was like before, and we would never want that for our children and grandchildren. We must ensure the rights of every person in Northern Ireland are upheld. This includes the right of freedom of assembly, freedom of expression, and all the civil liberties that this bill proposes to suspend indefinitely. In Northern Ireland, we are fighters, and fighters fight. Now is the time to unite and fight. The political parties keep division alive, keeping us fighting with each other, but the people are uniting against our common enemy. We're just not our fundamental rights and freedoms, but that of our children are under attack, and that of future generations. Go home today, hand page 47 to your child, and have them read it to you. Let the reality of the world we will be leaving behind for future generations sink in if we don't act. This is a one-way ratchet system. You can only go forward, not back. The rights that you give up are the rights that your children will never know, and they are planning to take away your rights without your input or consent. But equal force meets equal reaction, and Northern Ireland is reacting and erupting. Changing the world starts with you. No one can do everything, but if everyone does something, we can achieve anything. Lobby your MLAs, attend council meetings, plug into what's being proposed, let them know we are watching. This is a call to action. Go home and fill in the form. Don't engage in the agree, disagree. Just put in the comments and back it up with an email, or just send an email saying what you've heard here today, that you do not consent to these fundamental changes. It doesn't meet the consultation principles. It needs to be abolished and rewritten. And contact your MLAs. What have we got to fight against this? We have numbers, and we have the power of mass civil disobedience. They do not have the manpower to enforce this until they have their digital prisons fully built. Until then, it requires the consent and compliance from the people. It's all done under the threat of fine, and they're incorporating in doctors and head teachers to act as agents to enforce this under threat of them being fined. The biggest threat to this globalist agenda is non-compliance. And we are not alone. There's a growing awareness in the collective consciousness, and the silent majority are coming on board. See, the more ridiculous and nonsensical things get, the more uncomfortable people are in ignoring it, and they start asking questions. There is, how many people, Terence, would you say here today?
Could be a couple of thousand.
Jot that down. These are terrible at counting numbers. They're going to report it as 17 people. So a couple of thousand people here today. If each went home and spoke to 10 people, and those people spoke to 10 people, imagine the impact. I prefer not to tell people. Nobody likes to be told they're doing this, they're doing that, and there's no certainties, there's only possibilities and probabilities. So I think a better method is to ask questions. Why do you think they're doing that? Do you think it's about health? Why now? As that's more likely to open up a conversation, and it's going to encourage critical thinking on the other person's behalf. Accountability needs to start with us. I'm sorry to say it, but you get the government you deserve. Government itself can do no harm without your consent and compliance. They seem to have forgotten that we have given them the power, any power that they think they have to legislate, and we can take it away. Removing and suspending our rights. We need to remove any right they think they have to rule over us in an attempt to bring injustice, oppression and medical enslavement to Northern Ireland. We do not consent, and we will not ever consent. Too many people accepted lockdowns and their access to society, to work, to travel, to meet with their loved ones restricted, allowing for a party argument to question, is it even a human right anymore if we allowed for its removal? We can never let this happen again. Don't be fooled. This bill is not about health. It's about surveillance and digital ID. It's a Trojan horse to get digital ID and surveillance into Northern Ireland. The threat that you will lose all of your rights, or you can submit to monitoring and surveillance to prevent that from happening. Then they extend that surveillance to enact social control. Today we stand together to defend the rights of every man, woman and child in Northern Ireland to maintain justice and dignity. Fight like your life and liberty depends on it, because they do. Now is the time to fight. Don't let the loss of the rights of the people of Northern Ireland be on our watch. Don't let it happen. It depends on you. The world is watching. It has seen the worst of us when we were divided. Let's show the world the best of us when we are united. The time for action. The time for action is now. Let us seize it and lead the way. Let us be the Northern Ireland that history will remember, not for what we overcame, but for what we achieved when we stood together and said no.
Right, thank you very much, the fantastic Melissa Ciummei. Now, as we look around this crowd, the amount of people here, I can see one in front of me right now. The number of people here that you'd never hear of, but have done a massive amount of work in the background. They maybe don't want to come up and talk, but what they do is more important than me with a mouth up here. So there's people in the crowd I don't know if I can mention. Can I? Well, we've lots of ones here. There's some people in behind the scenes, people that do some unbelievable work to actually do something of good and bring forward a lot of things. I can't mention what they're doing, but I can see 10 or 20 people here. We have some fantastic. There's a yellow cap over there, put a post out the other night. How you doing, Keith? But we have somebody here in the crowd as well. We have a lovely lady, Kathy Gray, that does a massive amount of work in the background. The amount of things that she does, and the amount of things we can't even mention because it's so important, the stuff she's doing, I can't release it, but it's in behind this, the workhorse behind all the stuff is the people that you don't see. So when you're standing here and you just think it's a couple of people standing up here talking, I was stunned over the last while at the amount of people I've never heard of, never seen, and came up, and we were at a meeting the other night in the council in Mackerfelt, and we had spotted that all these consultations that they'd sent in were pretty much identical. They were photocopied and added to their agendas. We took one from Downpatrick, we took one from Mackerfelt, and that's the scary thing, these things were identical. I believed that a council was looking over these things, had our interest at heart, and were investigating it and checking these things, and then they would put that forward to the Assembly. But it turns out, no, they were handed a piece of paper. It was already filled out, text and everything was in it, and they had to rubber stamp it and put it out. So it's amazing. These people had spotted this 2 weeks ahead of time and had come up, and they were holding the council, to task for what they were doing, and they put that in the other night. So that's happening everywhere. There's people in Lurgan, there's people in Mackerfelt, people in Downpatrick, there's people all over the place. There's buses have came here today, and the amount of effort, nobody's getting paid here. We work during the day and we come out and do whatever we can. There's a amount of people I can see a fella there, but I can't mention his name. There's a doctor in the audience, in the crowd at the minute. A doctor, McDonnell. Anybody know him? Yeah. I don't know. I think I've seen another fella around there, Leonard Brownlee or somebody. I don't know. And maybe he wants to wave. I don't know. That fella there. See him? Thank you very much for everything you're doing. That bit of humour is more important.
Absolutely.
It got a lot of people through dark days, and it's much appreciated. Again, in the background, people doing stuff you wouldn't believe. We have asked politicians to come up. It's an offer right now. If there's any politician here that wants to come up 2 minutes and say how they're going to stop this bill, not it's 18 months down the line, we're going to look at it, don't worry, we've got it, we've got your back. If there's any politicians that can come up. Oh, hell, sorry? We have a politician here, Gemma Brolly. Now, we'll be asking everybody to come up. Right now is the chance. We don't care who you are. If you're a politician and you say you're representing us, this is your chance to come up. So we have this lady here, but anybody else is here right now, this is it. Your chance to come up and talk.
Hey everybody, can I say it's an absolute honour to stand here with you today on these streets together. I first learned of this bill probably in around the same time as everybody else. It was actually an A2 colleague that sent it via WhatsApp and said, we need to look at this. So I took one Saturday night to the 80 pages, and when I got to page about in the 40s and then 47, I put down the paper and lifted the phone to the colleague and said, I can't be reading this right. And he said, you are. And I said, I can't be. There's no way a governing body could propose this in July, and it's September and I'm only hearing about it. But no, as we all know, that's the reality. I come from a party that is only 5 years old. We are built from the ground up. Everything we do here in the north is voluntary. There's no money involved. I've ran in 3 elections and never been elected, and I'll ask you why. Because I want to genuinely ask you to consider today who you do hear from. What parties are here that you voted for and that claim to represent you? Who is representing who here? We in A2 come from a belief in Sorry? A2 never asked, well, I am the deputy leader for the past 3 years, and I never asked anyone. I stand for, as a mother, a parent and a teacher. And we stand in 32 counties for the rights of the people. We believe in Protestant, Catholic and the centre. We come from a land where you may believe in the Union, I may believe in a United Ireland, but what use are any of those if we are locked, bound and gagged? We have to unite the people on this. There are so many people. I'm still getting messages this morning. What is this? Where can I read about this? Why haven't I been told about this? It is no mistake that this bill or this consultation was released when it was. No mistake at all. We had an election I myself ran in a few months ago. If this bill was proposed a few months before that, what would you have been saying at your doors? Who would you have wanted to speak to? Would they have dared propose such madness? Never. This is all timed. I am a parent and a teacher, as I said. I stood in the street not long, about a year ago, and fought RSE. What we see here happening north and south in the A2 is a parental state. A state coming in and telling you and me how we should parent our children. Your job in government is to govern. Our job as parents is to parent. Keep your nose out of our house. you must send a very strong message and not forget the 14th, that's Monday, is only the end of consultation responses. Everybody needs to bang the door of every MLA, councillor, anybody related to any party, call in, call up and email them and ask them what they're doing about this. I have had so many people contact me to tell me they're getting responses from one nationalist party to tell them, don't worry about it, it's only in draft. If it's only in draft, how dare you propose such madness in any form and think that you have the right to do so? And from another nationalist party, people are constantly being told, send me your number and I'll call you back. Guess what? No calls. Or they're also been told, in fact, one such response was, what we need to do is vaccinate the whole population for the mRNA vaccines to work. So you really have to question. You have 3 years, unfortunately, until they will come to your door again, because many you'll not see within those 3 years. What can we do? There are, as Melissa said, a couple of thousand people. We need to make this our daily business every day. Have you seen it? Have you read it? There are so many people here as well that probably have never took to a protest before or stood on a street before. But you could not believe your eyes when you read what you saw in black and white. And by the way, in black and white, no misinformation about the information within that bill. You couldn't believe it, and you're here. And we welcome you with open arms. I was once you. But you must continue, and next time bring 5 people with you. Because there will be a next time. This is a hard, long fight, and we need to be prepared to fight. As a teacher, just in the final, as a teacher, I have also raised this. There are serious repercussions as a teacher and a principal within that bill, and they do not know. They do not realise. I am also a member of a union, and I have taken it to my union. Many at that meeting had no idea what I was talking about. That a principal or a teacher would be charged with reporting a child. And in the role of a teacher, that if I proposed such madness, I would be hauled over the coals for doing that to a child, for creating that anxiety. And yet, we have the people at the top level who are telling me how I should teach and what I should teach, by the way. Proposing that, and yet who hauls them over the coals? Nobody. We do. We haul them over the coals and we tell them, sort it out, stand up or move out. So I am asking you every day to remind them, sort it out or move out. We the people decide.
Thank you very much. 1 second.
One sec. Right, we'll just put that call out one more time. If there's any politicians want to come up, anybody in the crowd that wants to come up from our political parties, whatever else want to come up, now's your chance to do it.
Good afternoon. I'm delighted to be here this afternoon. I'm Alan Givan. I'm a councillor of Lisburn and Castlereagh City Council. I am DUP councillor, and the DUP are opposing this new health bill. I'm sure you're all familiar with Paul Flew, MLA. My son is Paul Givan, MLA, the Education Minister. Dan Dodds is also opposing this bill, and they have, as you have heard, our leader Gavin Robinson is also opposing this bill. So we are going forward. we are the only party as yet that has come out to make it very clear our opposition towards this draconian Orwellian bill. And I have read it, I have done the consultation myself. I encourage you and everyone else to take the time to do it. And if we make enough noise and if we tell enough of our friends to get engaged, I believe we can stop it and we can't kill this bill. So thank you again for coming. Thank you.
Right, okay, we're getting short on time, so thank you very much for everybody for coming. Again, I'd like to thank everybody for attending. The real important thing to take away from today is stop looking for somebody to save you, including politicians, including press, including TV. We have to realise that we are somebody, you are somebody. That's what we need to realise. If everybody did a little bit, you've a couple of thousand people here, 1.2 or 1.8, 1.9 million people in Northern Ireland. Everybody did a little bit, then we could turn this thing around. So, just for myself, I don't have any script, I don't have anything to say. I'm just a person who goes to work just like everybody else here. You can see from the people that are here, we're worried about this. We're worried that the people who are supposed to look after us are not looking after us. We were very worried when it seems to be worse the more we look at it as we're into the councils and everything's rubber stamped. And it's pretty much, there's a good chance this is sent from outside this country. We need our politicians to look after us inside this country. We're worried about this bill, we're worried about the justice bill, but more importantly, we're probably worried about our own bills. Our politicians need to be helping us getting doctor's appointments. Our politicians need to be helping us getting to medical treatment and whatever else in hospitals, not this stuff. They need to be helping.
Just want to remind everybody to go to stopthenihealthbill.org to all the details and all the information's there. And if there's anyone that would like to stay behind and give a soundbite to our media team, stay behind and do that. And thank you all for coming out to protect the rights of us, our children and future generations.
John for the lorry. This only happens because people like ourselves just do something. Please do something. Thank you very much. Stop the bill.